The SL is back together. Took it on its maiden voyage this morning, and so I wanted to detail the things that have changed and been updated and upgraded since that happened, and it's a good area to do it, nice light. I'm not sure how the actual sound is going to come across because it's a little echoey in here, but in any case, just wanted to go back to front and then flip the bike and then go over all the things that have changed. So, starting at the saddle, nothing really is different here. I put this bag on the bike, and it has a Leatherman knife in it, so I now have a good set of pliers and stuff like that. Down to the rear wheel, I replaced a couple spokes, 3 to be exact, and those are silver spokes now, so that I can keep track of which ones were changed out as contrasted by the black spokes. So went on my ride this morning, and I'll definitely want to make sure that this wheel is still true, and I'm going to true it up later tonight just to make sure everything's still in good order. Got the 1136 cassette on here, which I sorely missed. Going up hills this morning, I didn't even have to go into the small chainring at all. I did everything just going through this cassette. Personally, especially with climbing in Atlanta, I don't mind having the big jumps between gears. It feels good, more so than a tighter cassette that might have a smaller jump between each actual cog. The instant relief of going to a lower gear is pretty nice. And so that was great because, this whole system again, this is 46, 34, and then 1136, which is just awesome. This really is becoming the ultimate touring bike, and I'll detail why that is as this little tour continues. So, new Tiagra derailleur, new derailleur hanger. You can start to see right here, this the gear cables are now fully externalized, aside from, I guess, a couple points, one of them being this, where the cable actually goes into the frame and then around, but I've actually attached the cable to the chainstays here with zip ties. So this is going to the rear derailleur. And I detailed this pretty well in my previous videos, but it was just such a pain to have to change out cables, and now I can do it almost instantly. And so there's a bunch of zip ties all over the bike. There's one here peeking in through the chain ring, but I think I'll keep detailing those as I go along, but really happy with externalizing everything. New front derailleur, again, externalized gearing coming through here. This actually does go through the frame here down in the bottom bracket shell, right here. It's still fully housed and everything, so it's not hard to switch out the cable. But I was just using an existing routing hole to put that in. So, moving along, I'm actually using the water bottle cage here to sort of hold some of the cabling as it continues down the frame itself. So there's actually 6 zip ties here, 2 holding the rear derailleur cable as it goes down the down tube, and then a zip tie that actually goes over to the other side to hold everything sort of in place. It feels a little loose. But I'm happy with this system. You can kind of see, it's kind of hard to see. It's, I suppose, not the best lighting in the world. But the shifting performance was perfectly fine. Today it was just as good as it was previously when things were housed inside the frame. Yesterday, when I spent 5 hours or something putting this bike back together yesterday, with all the pieces finally in stock. And I did notice that the little, what would you call this thing? Not really a hanger, but this little thing that holds the braze on for the front derailleur. Turns out it was actually bent. And so spent a long time yesterday trying to get the front derailleur to be set up properly, and it was a real struggle and a real fight. And then I was like, you know what? All this shit got extremely mangled in the wreck. Maybe I need to actually bend this back, and that was the case. So, lesson learned in the future. If something happens and everything that I was using gets horribly bent and something doesn't seem to be working with new parts, don't be afraid to bend things back, or at least to examine whether or not bending might be something beneficial. So, moving on, kind of fell off my bike this morning over a log. I was able to eject myself quickly before I actually ate shit, but that was funny. This is I guess we're moving along. This is a Fender I had on another bike. I'll just switch it out between bikes as time goes on, but it's a really good front fender. A lot more adjustable and solid than the one that was on the other Fuji. This is a new Surly fork. It's the Midnight Special. Pretty stoked about it. It seems a lot beefier than the Straggler fork that I had and broke. This is their fork that is on their Midnight Special road bike. And so I got that last week as well and set it up, cut the steer tube. As you can see, I didn't set the star fangled nut 100% straight, so I might need to fix that sometime in the future. It's a little offset right now, but you know, the bike still handles as if it was perfectly plumb, I guess, so no huge rush to do that. But got these water bottle cages from Performance and was able to zip tie. Didn't have any hose clamps anymore, so I had these pretty big industrial zip ties. So that's holding it up here, and then we just got a little braze-on bolt down here. This is a through axle fork, which is pretty sweet. And this is a wheel that actually came when I destroyed the back wheel on this bike. Got this new oval wheel set, and I wasn't able to use this front wheel with the old setup because it's through axle. So now I get to use it with this new fork, which is pretty sweet because it's like a brand new wheel that's really never been used. And I do have a new set of Continental Continental Grand Sport Race tires, 28 millimeters, that I'm pretty stoked to put on the bike soon. Not quite yet. I think these tires still have a little bit of life in them, but I have a new set to go on them as soon as it's time, and it's almost time. So, flipping the bike over, I do like that this bike has a much more quiet free hub than the Altamira does. The Altamira, you can hear it from like a million miles away, and it's kind of obnoxious. So, I guess we'll start in the back again. Can't seem to get this right. So here's another spoke that was replaced, silver, contrasting with the black. Let's see, I am actually eating some crow right here because some of the brakes, the brakes that I was using previously on this bike, the pads are really worn in the low. When I was going through all my stuff yesterday, I was like, well, let's just try this fucking Spire bullshit again, and I'll set it up really, really tight, and we'll see if we can break this thing in and make it work. So I'm trying this one out again. I actually did get a flat mount adapter, which I currently have installed on the front fork. I'll go over in a minute. But the adapter here in the back, the way this frame is set up, there's actually not enough room to fit the caliper I was hoping to put here. So just for experimentation, I'm trying the Spire again, and we'll see if it gets better over time or what. I'm definitely not married to the idea of continuing to use it, but I have it, and the pads are basically brand new. There's tons of material there, so I was like, might as well with what I have. Just go ahead and put those back on. So moving forward, you can see more of the externalized housing for the front derailleur. Zip ties again on the water bottle cage, holding it there because there's no grommets or anything like that to hold this cable. And this is for the front derailleur, which sneaks up here into the frame. I have found there's a bit of a sensitivity with the front derailleur cable. I have to be careful with the cable tension because if the cable and the housing and the cable kind of move around too much, I can lose the setting that I have on the cable for some reason. It doesn't seem to be a problem with the rear derailleur, but a couple times yesterday, I'm not really sure what the deal was, but I would adjust the actual tension and then I would lose the adjustment for some unknown reason. So I'm keeping that in mind. Moving along, let's see. Pretty sure we're almost done here at the end of the tour. Another water bottle mount, so we have that same setup still, like on the other fork. And up here in the front, I do have that flat mount adapter here, which it looks pretty sweet. It's pretty beefy. And I have a Promax render brake, which and a Promax rotor. The rotor in the back is still an Avid BP7, but the Promax is a little bit stronger than the TRP, but not great. So I'm not super stoked on the front or rear brakes. It's sort of experimenting with what I had. Again, these brakes, in addition to the TRPs, had a ton of material on the pads. They're basically brand new. I never used them. I don't even remember what bike they came on. But actually, I think it was my Massey or something like that. Never really used, so I was like curious if I could break them in, maybe get them to feel as good as some of my favorite calipers. But in any case, the bike's feeling good. Everything's back to normal, more or less. And I really do feel confident about this bike now. Like, I had said in a previous video that I really wouldn't want to take this bike on another extensive tour purely based on how much of a pain it is to actually replace these cables. It would really just be impossible to do so if I was out on the open road. And even if I had brought the cable, I just wouldn't have everything I would need to do that easily or successfully. So now, it's not a problem. Yesterday, in fact, I was able to even change out the front derailleur cable because I had cut the first one too short and I had a spare. It was really just an old rear derailleur cable, so it was extra long, and I was able to use that as a front derailleur cable, and I was able to effectively test the setup. And instead of it taking 10 million years and 1,000 expletives, I was able to just very easily thread it through the shifter into the housing, and it just worked like a dream. So this bike, I have, in the combination with the externalized housing and the actual gearing being as low as it is, I feel super confident in this bike being whatever my next adventure is. I feel good about having this bike be my primary bike for it. I did one more thing I just remembered. I do have a double inline barrel adjuster here. So one barrel adjuster here and then another one right there for the front derailleur, because that thing is definitely a lot more finicky with its adjustments. So that's just a little bit more adjustability that I can do on the fly if things are starting to feel weird or sluggish or anything like that. So that's the setup. It felt good this morning. Like I said, I definitely want to make sure that wheel is still true since it went through that trauma. And, there's when I put those spokes back in, I had that video saying, talking about the process of using my tensiometer and making... Oh, hey, how's it going? Good, how about you?
Outstanding.
Good. Little coworker cameo. Anyway, yeah, so with that wheel, I just want to make sure that everything is still tried and true, so to speak. So that'll be my homework for tonight. But otherwise, the bike's feeling good. The front derailleur is definitely, maybe still might need some adjustment as things are going on in terms of like the adjusting for trim and stuff like that. But I'm pretty happy with how things are right now. And it was a good little week of projects that has now come to a more or less of an end. Yeah, stay tuned for whatever the universe has in store for the future. Who knows, it might all get fucking destroyed again on my way home today, so I could have to repeat this exact same project. But, you know, fingers crossed, live and learn. I'll try not to jump at that specific spot again. But if I do, I'll try to make a video from the scene of the crime instead of just taking pictures, so I can actually document it from start to finish that time. So, success.